In the quiet town of Macomb, not unlike many others scattered across the American landscape, life usually unfolded with predictable rhythm. The courthouse clock tower chimed the hours, marking the passage of days filled with school buses, bake sales, and Friday night football games. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, secrets often simmered, waiting for the right moment to erupt. Judge Leticia "Letty" Gonzalez was a pillar of the community. She presided over the county court with an air of authority and fairness. People respected her. She was known for her sharp legal mind and her commitment to justice. Her home, a sprawling Victorian house on Elm Street, was a picture of domestic tranquility, a testament to her seemingly perfect life. She was married to a successful lawyer, David, and together they raised their children, including Sabrina, David's daughter from a previous marriage. Letty volunteered at the local soup kitchen, mentored young girls, and always had a smile for everyone she met. She was the woman everyone aspired to be, intelligent, accomplished, and kind. But behind the closed doors of that Victorian house, a storm was brewing, a darkness that would soon consume everything in its path, a darkness that would shatter the image of the perfect judge and reveal a shocking truth. This image of perfection was meticulously crafted, hiding a web of lies and a dangerous obsession. The truth, as it often does, lay hidden in plain sight, masked by respectability and power. Few suspected the secrets Letty harbored. Even fewer could have imagined the lengths she would go to protect them. The idyllic facade was about to crumble, revealing the cold-blooded killer beneath the judge's robe. It all started with a secret that should have remained buried. It started with an inmate and a forbidden love, or rather, an intense and dangerous infatuation. It started with the respected Judge Letty Gonzalez and her descent into darkness. Sabrina wasn't perfect, but she was perfectly Sabrina. At 16, she stood on the precipice of adulthood, her life stretching out before her like an unwritten book. She had inherited her father's kind eyes and her mother's fiery spirit, a combination that made her both compassionate and fiercely independent. Her long brown hair often fell in her face as she bent over her school books, a habit that annoyed Leticia to no end. She loved to laugh, her infectious giggle often echoing through the halls of the Victorian house. She dreamed of becoming a veterinarian, spending hours tending to stray animals and volunteering at the local animal shelter. Her room was a testament to her passions. Posters of horses adorned the walls, and stacks of veterinary textbooks cluttered her desk. Sabrina was popular at school, but she wasn't a mean girl. She had a close circle of friends who valued her loyalty and her sense of humor. She excelled in science and had a knack for solving puzzles. She was also a talented artist, sketching intricate drawings in her spare time. She and Leticia had a complicated relationship. Leticia, the stepmother, tried to be supportive, but there was always an undercurrent of tension between them. Sabrina sometimes felt like she was walking on eggshells around Leticia, never quite sure what would set her off. David, Sabrina's father, tried to bridge the gap between them, but he often seemed oblivious to the subtle dynamics at play. Sabrina confided in her best friend, Emily, about her unease with Leticia. "It's like she's always watching me," she'd say. "I can't explain it, but something just feels off." Emily would reassure her, telling her she was probably just being a typical teenager, but Sabrina couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Sabrina's life, full of promise and potential, was about to be tragically cut short. She was unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows, the darkness that had taken root in the heart of the woman who was supposed to protect her. She was simply a teenager, navigating the complexities of life, unaware that her innocent discovery would seal her fate. She had no idea that her stepmother, the respected Judge Leticia Gonzalez, was capable of such unspeakable cruelty. The affair began innocently enough, or so Leticia told herself. It started with a routine visit to the Macomb County Correctional Facility. As a judge, she often toured the facility to assess conditions and ensure the inmates' rights were being upheld. That's where she first saw him, Michael "Razor" Reynolds. He was serving a sentence for armed robbery a man with a reputation for violence and a chilling stare. But something about him captivated Letitia. Perhaps it was the danger he represented, the thrill of the forbidden. Or maybe it was the way he looked at her, a mixture of defiance and vulnerability that she found strangely alluring. Their initial interactions were brief, limited to polite exchanges during her official visits. But soon, those exchanges became longer, more personal. Letitia found herself drawn to Razor's stories of hardship and resilience. She started bringing him small gifts, books, magazines, even extra snacks from the courthouse cafeteria. The relationship quickly escalated. Letitia began using her position to arrange private meetings with Razor, claiming she needed to discuss legal matters with him. These meetings took place in a secluded room within the prison, far from the prying eyes of guards and other inmates. During these clandestine encounters, Letitia and Razor confessed their deepest desires and insecurities. Letitia, trapped in a loveless marriage and suffocated by the expectations of her position, found solace in Razor's attention. Razor, in turn, saw Letitia as his ticket to freedom, a powerful woman who could potentially manipulate the system to his advantage. The power imbalance was staggering. Letitia, a judge sworn to uphold the law, was engaging in an illicit relationship with an inmate, violating her oath and jeopardizing her career. Razor, a convicted felon, was exploiting Letitia's vulnerabilities for his own gain. The affair became an obsession, a dangerous game that threatened to unravel Letitia's carefully constructed life. She knew she was playing with fire, but she couldn't stop herself. The thrill of the forbidden was too intoxicating, the allure of Razor too strong. She had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. It was a dangerous liaison that would have devastating consequences, especially for Sabrina, who would soon stumble upon their secret. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Sabrina had come home early from school with a headache. The house was unusually quiet. Letitia was supposed to be at a meeting downtown, and David was at his law office. Sabrina went to the kitchen to grab a soda, hoping the sugar would help ease her throbbing head. As she reached for a can, she noticed Letitia's cell phone lying on the counter. It was unusual for Letitia to leave her phone behind. She was usually glued to it. Curiosity piqued. Sabrina glanced at the screen. A new text message had just arrived. The message was from an unknown number, and the preview read, "Can't wait to see you later, my love. Thinking about all the things we're going to do." Sabrina's heart skipped a beat. She knew Letitia was having problems with David. She'd overheard them arguing late at night, their voices hushed but filled with tension. But she never imagined Letitia would be involved with someone else. Driven by a mixture of concern and suspicion, Sabrina unlocked Letitia's phone, something she knew she shouldn't do. She scrolled through the text messages, her eyes widening in disbelief. The messages were explicit, filled with declarations of love and longing. The unknown number belonged to someone named Razor. Sabrina frantically searched online for Razor in Macomb County. The search results led her to Michael Razor Reynolds, an inmate at the local correctional facility. A chill ran down her spine. It couldn't be true. Her stepmother, a respected judge, was having an affair with a convicted felon. Suddenly, the pieces started to fall into place. Letitia's late-night meetings, her unexplained absences, the tension in the house. It all made sense now, and it was terrifying. Sabrina knew she had stumbled upon something dangerous, something that could shatter her family and destroy Letitia's career. She didn't know what to do. Should she tell her father? Should she confront Letitia? Or should she pretend she never saw anything? The weight of the secret was crushing her. She felt like she was carrying a ticking time bomb, unsure when it would explode. Little did she know, the explosion was closer than she thought, and she was standing directly in its path. The discovery had placed her in mortal danger. Sabrina couldn't keep the secret to herself. The next day, after school, she waited for Letitia to come home. Her hands trembled as she rehearsed what she wanted to say, how she would confront her stepmother without losing control. When Letitia finally arrived, she seemed tired and preoccupied. She barely acknowledged Sabrina as she walked past her into the kitchen. This only fueled Sabrina's anxiety. "Letitia, we need to talk," Sabrina said, her voice shaking slightly. Letitia stopped, turned around, and gave Sabrina a wary look. "What is it, Sabrina? I've had a long day." Sabrina took a deep breath. "I know about you and Razor." The color drained from Letitia's face. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed with anger. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I saw the text messages on your phone," Sabrina said, her voice growing stronger. "I know about the affair. I know he's an inmate at the correctional facility." Letitia's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. She took a step closer to Sabrina, her eyes blazing with fury. "You have no idea what you're talking about," she hissed. "You're just a stupid little girl trying to cause trouble." "I'm not stupid," Sabrina retorted, standing her ground. "I know what I saw. How could you do this, Letitia? How could you betray Dad like this?" Letitia's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You will not tell anyone about this, Sabrina. Do you understand me? No one. This is my life, and you will not ruin it." "But it's wrong," Sabrina protested. "It's illegal. You're a judge. You're supposed to uphold the law." "The law doesn't matter right now," Letitia said, her voice hardening. "What matters is protecting myself. And if that means keeping you quiet, then that's what I'll do." She grabbed Sabrina's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "You will forget about this. You will never mention Razor's name again. Do you understand?" Sabrina tried to pull away, but Letitia's grip tightened. "What are you going to do?" Sabrina asked, her voice filled with fear. "Are you going to hurt me?" Letitia's eyes flickered with a coldness that Sabrina had never seen before. "Don't make me do something I don't want to do," she said. "Just keep your mouth shut, and everything will be fine." The threat hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Sabrina knew she was in serious danger. She had underestimated Letitia's desperation and her willingness to protect her secret, no matter the cost. The confrontation had escalated beyond anything she could have imagined. That night, Sabrina couldn't sleep. Letitia's threat replayed in her mind, fueling her fear and anxiety. She tossed and turned in bed, wondering what to do. She considered telling her father, but she was afraid of the fallout, of the pain and heartbreak it would cause him. She also worried about what Letitia might do to her if she betrayed her trust. She decided to confide in Emily, her best friend. She snuck out of the house early the next morning and met Emily at their usual spot, a secluded bench in the park. As she recounted the events of the previous day, Emily's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. "Sabrina, this is insane," Emily exclaimed. "You have to tell someone. This is way too dangerous." I know," Sabrina said, her voice filled with desperation. "But I'm scared, Emily. What if Letitia does something to me? What if she hurts Dad? We can go to the police," Emily suggested. "They can protect you." Sabrina hesitated. "But what if they don't believe me? It's Letitia. She's a judge. Everyone respects her." "We have the text messages," Emily reminded her. "That's proof." After much deliberation, Sabrina and Emily decided to go to the police. They went to the Macomb County Sheriff's Department and spoke to a detective named Harding. Detective Harding listened patiently as Sabrina recounted her story, showing him the text messages and explaining her fears. He seemed skeptical at first, but as Sabrina spoke, he began to see the fear in her eyes and the sincerity in her voice. He promised to investigate, but he cautioned Sabrina to be careful. "Your stepmother is a powerful woman," he warned. "She won't hesitate to protect herself. Be careful what you say and do, and don't confront her again without me present." Sabrina felt a sense of relief knowing that the police were involved, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was still in danger. She returned home that afternoon, trying to act normal, but she knew that Letitia was watching her, scrutinizing her every move. The atmosphere in the house was thick with tension, a silent battleground where every word and action was carefully calculated. That evening, as Sabrina was doing her homework in her room, Letitia entered without knocking. Her eyes were cold and hard, and her voice was devoid of emotion. "We need to talk," she said, her words sending a shiver down Sabrina's spine. The moment of truth had arrived. Letitia closed the door behind her, the click echoing in the small room. Sabrina remained seated at her desk, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew this was it. This was the moment she had been dreading. "I know you went to the police," Letitia said, her voice flat and accusing. "Detective Harding called me this afternoon. He asked me about Razor." Sabrina didn't respond. She couldn't bring herself to speak. "You betrayed me, Sabrina," Letitia continued, her voice rising. "I trusted you, and you went behind my back and told the police." "I had to," Sabrina finally managed to say, her voice trembling. "What you're doing is wrong, Letitia. It's hurting everyone." "You don't understand anything," Letitia snapped. "This is my life, my happiness, and you're trying to take it away from me." She took a step closer to Sabrina, her eyes filled with a chilling mixture of anger and desperation. "I gave you everything, Sabrina. I took you in when your mother died. I raised you as my own. And this is how you repay me. I never asked you to do any of that," Sabrina said, her voice growing stronger. "I just wanted you to be honest. I wanted you to be a good person." Letitia's face contorted with rage. "I'm a good person," she screamed. "I'm a respected member of this community. I'm a judge, and you're trying to ruin everything." She lunged at Sabrina, grabbing her by the throat. Sabrina gasped for air, her hands clawing at Letitia's arms. She struggled to break free, but Letitia's grip was too strong. Letitia squeezed tighter, her eyes filled with a cold, calculating rage. Sabrina's vision began to blur, her lungs burning for air. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The struggle was brief but brutal. In a matter of minutes, Sabrina's life was extinguished, snuffed out by the woman who was supposed to protect her. Letitia released her grip, and Sabrina's lifeless body slumped to the floor. Letitia stood over her, her chest heaving, her mind racing. She had done it. She had silenced Sabrina. But now, she had to cover her tracks. She had to make it look like an accident. With cold calculation, Letitia began to stage the scene, wiping away fingerprints and creating a false narrative. She knew she had to be careful, methodical. Her entire future depended on it. The judge was now a murderer, and she would do whatever it took to protect her secret, even if it meant sacrificing the life of an innocent girl. The house was silent except for Letitia's ragged breathing. The clock ticked on. When David arrived home that evening, Letitia met him at the door, her eyes red and swollen. She told him that she had found Sabrina unconscious in her room, that she must have fallen and hit her head. She claimed she had called 911 immediately. David rushed to Sabrina's room, his heart pounding in his chest. He found her lying on the floor, her body still and lifeless. He knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he checked for a pulse. There was none. The paramedics arrived shortly after, but it was too late. Sabrina was gone. The initial investigation focused on the possibility of an accidental death. The police questioned Letitia and David, as well as Sabrina's friends and teachers. Letitia played the grieving stepmother to perfection, shedding tears and expressing her shock and sorrow. She told Detective Harding that Sabrina had been under a lot of stress lately, struggling with schoolwork and feeling overwhelmed. She suggested that Sabrina might have fainted due to exhaustion or a pre-existing medical condition. Detective Harding examined the scene carefully, but he found no obvious signs of foul play. The room was neat and tidy, and there were no signs of struggle. The only injury was a small bump on the back of Sabrina's head, consistent with a fall. The medical examiner performed an autopsy, but the results were inconclusive. The cause of death was listed as undetermined, pending further investigation. Detective Harding was troubled by the lack of clear evidence. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He remembered Sabrina's visit to the sheriff's department, her fear and her accusations against Letitia. He decided to delve deeper into Letitia's background, looking for any inconsistencies or red flags. He reviewed her financial records, her phone logs, and her past interactions with the correctional facility. Meanwhile, Letitia continued her charade, attending Sabrina's funeral and consoling David. She received an outpouring of sympathy from the community, who saw her as a grieving widow, a victim of a tragic accident. But beneath the surface, Letitia was terrified. She knew that the police were watching her, scrutinizing her every move. She had to remain calm and composed to maintain her innocence or risk losing everything. The game of deception was on, and the stakes were higher than ever. Every interaction, every conversation was a calculated risk. The clock was ticking, and the truth was slowly but surely beginning to surface. The first crack in Letitia's facade appeared when Detective Harding interviewed Letitia's colleagues at the courthouse. She had claimed to be at a meeting downtown at the time of Sabrina's death, but several colleagues stated that the meeting had ended early and Letitia had left abruptly, citing a headache. This inconsistency raised a red flag for Detective Harding. He checked Letitia's cell phone records and discovered that she had made a brief call to Michael Razor Reynolds at the correctional facility shortly after leaving the courthouse. Another clue emerged from the medical examiner's office. A closer examination of Sabrina's body revealed faint bruising around her neck, bruising that was not consistent with a simple fall. The medical examiner changed the cause of death from undetermined to possible strangulation. Detective Harding also interviewed Emily, Sabrina's best friend. Emily recounted Sabrina's fears about Letitia and her suspicions about the affair. She also revealed that Sabrina had shown her the text messages on Letitia's phone. Armed with this new information, Detective Harding obtained a warrant to search Letitia's home. During the search, they found a small piece of fabric hidden in Letitia's closet. The fabric matched the fibers found on Sabrina's neck. The evidence was mounting against Letitia, but she remained steadfast in her denial. She claimed that the colleagues were mistaken about the meeting, that the phone call to Razor was a routine legal matter, and that the fabric must have been transferred accidentally. However, Detective Harding wasn't buying it. He knew that Letitia was lying, that she was desperately trying to protect herself. He just needed one more piece of evidence to break her. That piece of evidence came from an unexpected source, Michael Razor Reynolds. Razor, facing pressure from the authorities, decided to cut a deal. He revealed the details of his affair with Letitia and confirmed that she had confided in him about her problems with Sabrina. He also told the detective that Letitia had mentioned wanting to shut Sabrina up for good. With Razor's testimony and the mounting circumstantial evidence, Detective Harding finally had enough to arrest Letitia Gonzalez for the murder of her stepdaughter, Sabrina. The respected judge, the pillar of the community, was now a prime suspect in a shocking crime. The carefully constructed facade had crumbled, revealing the darkness that had been hidden beneath for so long. Letitia's arrest sent shockwaves through Macomb. The image of the respected judge being led away in handcuffs was plastered across the local news, shattering the community's sense of security and trust. During the interrogation, Letitia remained composed and defiant. She denied any involvement in Sabrina's death, claiming that she was being framed. She accused Detective Harding of bias and insisted that the evidence was circumstantial and misinterpreted. She portrayed herself as a victim of circumstance, a grieving stepmother who was being unfairly targeted. She argued that Razor was a liar and a manipulator, trying to save his own skin by falsely accusing her. Letitia used her legal knowledge to her advantage, carefully choosing her words and challenging the detective's assumptions. She demanded to see the evidence, scrutinizing every detail and pointing out any potential flaws in the investigation. She attempted to manipulate the investigators by playing on their emotions, feigning sadness and vulnerability. She spoke of her love for Sabrina, her dedication to her family, and her commitment to justice. Detective Harding, however, was not swayed by her theatrics. He had seen too many liars and manipulators in his career to be fooled by Letitia's act. He pressed her relentlessly, confronting her with the inconsistencies in her story and the mounting evidence against her. He challenged her about the fabric fibers, the phone call to Razor, and the bruising on Sabrina's neck. He showed her the text messages between her and Razor, highlighting the explicit language and the declarations of love. Letitia remained steadfast in her denial, but her composure began to crack under the pressure. Her voice trembled, her hands shook, and her eyes darted nervously around the room. She knew that she was fighting a losing battle, that the evidence against her was overwhelming. But she refused to confess, clinging to the hope that she could somehow outsmart the investigators and escape justice. As the interrogation wore on, Letitia grew increasingly desperate. She offered to take a polygraph test, hoping to prove her innocence. But Detective Harding knew that a polygraph was not admissible in court, and he wasn't interested in playing games. He wanted the truth, and he wasn't going to stop until he got it. The interrogation room became a stage for a battle of wills, a desperate attempt by Letitia to maintain her carefully constructed lies against the relentless pursuit of justice. The trial of Letitia Gonzalez was a media frenzy. The small town of Macomb was thrust into the national spotlight, as the world watched to see if a respected judge could be convicted of murdering her stepdaughter. The prosecution presented a compelling case, laying out the evidence piece by piece. They called Detective Harding to the stand, who testified about his investigation and the inconsistencies in Letitia's story. The medical examiner testified about the bruising on Sabrina's neck, confirming that the cause of death was strangulation. Emily took the stand, recounting Sabrina's fears about Letitia and her suspicions about the affair. She read aloud the text messages between Letitia and Razor, highlighting the explicit language and the declarations of love. Michael Razor Reynolds testified about his affair with Letitia and her confession that she wanted to shut Sabrina up. His testimony was damning, painting Letitia as a cold and calculating killer. The prosecution also presented the fabric fibers found on Sabrina's neck, linking Letitia directly to the crime. They argued that Letitia had murdered Sabrina in a fit of rage, driven by her desire to protect her secret affair. The defense team attempted to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, arguing that the evidence was circumstantial and that Razor was an unreliable witness. They portrayed Letitia as a loving stepmother who had been unfairly targeted by a biased investigation. They called character witnesses who testified about Letitia's good reputation and her commitment to justice. They argued that there was no motive for Letitia to kill Sabrina, and that the prosecution's theory was based on speculation and conjecture. David, Sabrina's father, was called to the stand. He testified about his love for Sabrina and his shock and grief at her death. He spoke of Letitia's kindness and compassion, insisting that she could never have committed such a heinous crime. His testimony was emotional and heart-wrenching, but it was ultimately overshadowed by the overwhelming evidence against Letitia. The trial was a roller coaster of emotions, filled with shocking revelations, dramatic confrontations, and heart-wrenching testimonies. The fate of Letitia Gonzalez rested in the hands of the jury, who had to decide whether she was a grieving stepmother or a cold-blooded killer. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the jury deliberated, the weight of justice heavy in the air. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom was packed, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Letitia stood before the judge, her face pale and drawn. The foreperson of the jury read the verdict aloud. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Letitia Gonzalez, guilty of murder in the first degree." A gasp swept through the courtroom. David, Sabrina's father, broke down in tears. Emily, Sabrina's best friend, hugged her mother tightly. Detective Harding nodded solemnly. A sense of justice finally served. Letitia remained stoic, showing no emotion. The gravity of the verdict seemed to wash over her, but she refused to acknowledge the enormity of her crime. During the sentencing hearing, the prosecution argued for the maximum penalty, life in prison without the possibility of parole. They emphasized the brutality of Letitia's crime, the betrayal of trust, and the devastating impact on Sabrina's family and the community. The defense team pleaded for leniency, arguing that Letitia was a first-time offender and that she had suffered a mental breakdown at the time of the murder. They asked the judge to consider her past contributions to the community and her otherwise exemplary record. The judge, however, was unmoved. He spoke of the sanctity of life, the importance of justice, and the need to hold Letitia accountable for her actions. He sentenced Letitia Gonzalez to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He stated that her crime was heinous and unforgivable, and that she deserved to spend the rest of her days behind bars. As Letitia was led away, she finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. The reality of her situation had finally sunk in. She had lost everything: her freedom, her reputation, her family, and her future. The consequences of her actions were devastating. She had not only taken the life of an innocent girl, but she had also destroyed her own life and shattered the lives of those around her. The small town of Macomb would never be the same. The trial and the verdict had exposed the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most respected individuals. The weight of justice had finally been served, but the scars of the crime would remain for years to come. The aftermath of Letitia's trial left Macomb reeling. The town struggled to reconcile the image of the respected judge with the reality of a cold-blooded killer. The sense of security that had once defined the community was shattered, replaced by suspicion and mistrust. David, Sabrina's father, was devastated. He had lost his daughter and his wife, both to a senseless act of violence. He struggled to come to terms with Letitia's betrayal and the fact that he had been so blind to her true nature. He eventually moved away from Macomb, seeking a fresh start and a chance to heal from his grief. Emily, Sabrina's best friend, was deeply affected by the tragedy. She carried the guilt of knowing about Letitia's affair and not being able to prevent Sabrina's death. She became an advocate for victims of domestic violence, determined to make a difference and prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. The legal system in Macomb also faced scrutiny. Questions were raised about how Letitia had been able to carry on her affair with Razor for so long without being detected. Changes were implemented to improve oversight of judicial conduct and prevent future abuses of power. The case also sparked a debate about the power imbalance in relationships and the dangers of unchecked authority. People began to question the seemingly perfect lives of those in positions of power, realizing that appearances can be deceiving. The loss of innocence was perhaps the most profound impact of the crime. The young people of Macomb had been exposed to a dark side of humanity that they never knew existed. They learned that even those who were supposed to protect us can be capable of unspeakable acts. The betrayal of trust was also deeply felt. Letitia had violated her oath as a judge, her duty as a stepmother, and her responsibility as a member of the community. Her actions had eroded the public's faith in the legal system and in the institutions that are supposed to uphold justice. Years later, the memory of Sabrina and the crimes of Letitia Gonzalez still lingered in Macomb. The town had learned a hard lesson about the darkness that can reside within and the importance of vigilance and accountability. The story served as a reminder that even in the most peaceful of communities, evil can take root and that justice must always be pursued, no matter how powerful the perpetrator. While it's impossible to know exactly what was going on inside Letitia's mind, experts suggest that certain psychological factors may have played a role in her actions. One possibility is that Letitia had narcissistic traits. People with narcissism often have an inflated sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Letitia's position as a judge may have fueled her narcissistic tendencies, reinforcing her sense of power and control. She may have believed that she was above the law and that her actions were justified, regardless of the consequences. Another potential factor is Letitia's desire for control. She may have felt trapped in her marriage and suffocated by the expectations of her position. Her affair with Razor may have been a way for her to regain a sense of control over her life, to feel powerful and desired. When Sabrina threatened to expose her secret, Letitia may have felt like she was losing control, like her carefully constructed world was about to crumble. This fear of losing control may have driven her to take drastic measures, to silence Sabrina and protect her secret at any cost. It's also possible that Letitia suffered from a personality disorder, such as antisocial personality disorder, which is characterized by a disregard for the rights of others and a lack of remorse for harmful actions. People with this disorder often engage in impulsive and reckless behavior, without considering the consequences. However, it's important to remember that these are just potential explanations, not definitive diagnoses. Psychological analysis is complex and requires a thorough understanding of an individual's history and circumstances. Ultimately, Letitia's actions were the result of a complex interplay of factors, including her personality, her environment, and her choices. While psychological analysis can help us understand why she did what she did, it cannot excuse her behavior or diminish the gravity of her crime. Sabrina was an innocent victim, and Letitia was responsible for her death. Understanding the why doesn't change the what, and it certainly doesn't bring Sabrina back. The focus should remain on the injustice suffered by Sabrina and the lasting impact on her loved ones and the community. In the end, it's important to remember Sabrina, not as a victim, but as a vibrant and promising young woman whose life was tragically cut short. She was more than just a headline or a case file. She was a daughter, a friend, a student, and a dreamer. Those who knew her best remember her infectious laughter, her kind heart, and her unwavering dedication to her passions. She had a special connection with animals, a natural ability to care for and comfort them. Her dream of becoming a veterinarian was a testament to her compassion and her desire to make a positive impact on the world. Her artwork was another expression of her creativity and her unique perspective. Her sketches were filled with intricate details and vibrant colors, reflecting her imaginative mind and her love of beauty. She was a loyal and supportive friend, always there to lend an ear or offer a helping hand. She had a knack for making people feel seen and valued, for lifting their spirits and bringing joy to their lives. Her teachers remember her as a bright and engaged student, eager to learn and always willing to go the extra mile. She excelled in science and had a particular talent for problem solving. Sabrina's life, though brief, was filled with purpose and meaning. She touched the lives of many people and left a lasting legacy of kindness, compassion, and creativity. Although her dreams were stolen from her, her spirit lives on in the hearts of those who loved her. Her memory serves as a reminder to cherish every moment, to pursue our passions, and to make a difference in the world. Let us remember Sabrina not for the way she died, but for the way she lived. Let us celebrate her life, her spirit, and her enduring legacy. Let her story be a call to action, a reminder to stand up for justice, to protect the vulnerable, and to never let darkness triumph over light. And let her memory be a blessing, a source of comfort and inspiration for all who knew and loved her. Sabrina's light may have been extinguished too soon, but its warmth continues to shine brightly in the hearts of those who remember her. She will never be forgotten,